Right, this is what we've been waiting for. Hopefully we can get this bloody 90 off my wrist. What have we got? Boom, we don't want that. Right, we have here all makes hub. Now we got a hub because JP couldn't find the time to get the stud out, the old one. He's still playing around with his new lathe. So there we go. Which part all makes it all the same really, right? Also, the hub that I had, let me show you. The difference between the two is on the TD5 and the 300 TDI, they put the bearings closer together here. That was so they could put a different flange on here, so you could get mag wheels on. It was a bit of a waste really, I don't know why they did it like that. The old hubs were actually stronger. Well, it didn't wear the bearings up so much. Two oil seals, Cotco oil seals, we need those. Two swivel grease cartridges. And some, where are they? There you go. Now we've got some terraforma discs. These were the only ones we could get from Three Brothers. They are the drilled and slotted ones. Now the thing is, you've got to remember with these which way they go around. We'll tell you about that later. But first of all, let's get these out of the way. We'll get rid of all these boxes and plastic bags and things. Right, so now it's time to put this front end together. I'll just show you one side because the other is exactly the same. First things we're going to do, we're going to get our new gasket, going to put some Hylamar on it and put this on this housing here, 45 Newton meters. Now I always try to prefer to put the little flat right at the very top because it's easy to see. We'll put some grease in here just to give this a little bit of a preload, and then we're going to fit on, before we bolt it down, or prior to bolting it down, we're going to put this ring in. Now I think in the book it mentions it's a locking ring. I don't think so, because if we go down here, I do believe it's a ring to prevent dirt getting inside, and rocks and stuff, getting inside that cavity and causing the discs to go out of balance. It can happen. It won't stop thick mud or anything like that, or watery mud, but it'll stop something. But you should fit them. So let's get on with that. I'll get the gasket on. We'll put some thread lock on the bolts and then we'll torque them down. So there we go, we've got the Hylamar on there, we've got the ring, we've got some Loctite on that bolt, and we're just going to put a little bit of grease inside this bearing. There we go. Didn't see it, did you? So there we go, put a bit of grease in there. We've got a couple of bolts. We'll make sure this goes to the flat goes to the top. And fit this on. Now I was just going to say, this axle is going to be very nice and tight. There's no sort of slop in that diff, which is really, really good. Pretty rare, really. There we go. We'll put one there. There we go. And I'll put in the rest of the bolts. Right, the torques are 65 Newton meters for these bolts. what I do here, I print out a sheet and I glue it on with a magnet, well not glue it on, stick it on with a magnet so I can just see instantly all the torques for this axle. So we're just going to torque it down diagonally opposite. Not that one, no. Now a good idea when you're doing these is to do both sides at the same time. Then you're not messing about with your torque wrench or anything like that, resetting it. You know, I know it's lazy, but that's the way we are. And we don't want these coming off. Right, before we do the other side, we're going to now fill up the swivel housing. We didn't do it before because we didn't want grease and oil all over the place. So I'm going to get grease and oil all over my hand, so I want some paper towel. So perhaps you can see now there's a space there so you can get the grease in. That's where we want to put it. When you're putting the grease in, don't cut the nozzle right down to here, the little tube. I always thought there was a little dotted line on it, but if you cut it too big, you won't get it down in the hole. You see what I mean? So when we plug this in here, I want to get that right down in that hole and squeeze all that lovely grease in. And now that's all cleaned up, just going to squirt a bit of black wax. Ooh, I love wax. The reason why I'm doing it now is I can get access to it, and a bit of wax on this on both sides will prevent those shields from rusting off. I know they don't really do much, but you know, while they're there and in good condition, you might as well save them. Eh? Right, so now we're on the bench and we're going to fit the bearings to this hub. Now these are the old bearings and they were in extremely good condition, so there was no real need to replace them. There was no notches or anything like that on the bearings and been thoroughly cleaned out. There was a little bit of rust on the cage here, but the rollers are nice. There's no point really changing them. Now how I identify from one to front to the back, well this is the front one because it's got the locking washer on here, well not the locking washer but the spacing washer, and this is the back because it's got the oil seal, the old oil seal on there. So we're going to fit the back one first, the race, into here. And obviously we're going to go over to the press to do that. We're going to just make sure it's all nice and clean. Yeah, I was just ashamed about that stud, getting that stud out, but like I said, JP said he'll have a go, but he wasn't going to promise anything. So that's what we'll do. We'll go and press that bearing in and then we'll come back. A lovely fresh pot of grease. This is a Canadian low temperature grease. It's April Supreme grease, I was going to say it in French there, wheel bearing grease. It's very good stuff. Never have a problem with it. So we're going to take the bearing, we're going to put an initial bit of grease in here, and then we're going to force it into the rollers with our palm and just get this charged up. Now the thing is, grease is a funny stuff because you shouldn't put more than 75% grease in the cavity, otherwise it will overheat. So we want that to come through to the other side so it's got a really good start. If you're worried about getting dirt on your hands or grease, forget it. But we'll start to see grease come out the other side. Like I say, you've got to be clean when you're doing this. You don't want to put dirty, gritty, you know, doing it on your drive with all dirt and everything blowing about. Yeah, that's that. So now we'll get some grease and put it on in the inner race. Like that. And pop that in to there like that. Now this is where you need lots of paper towel. Because you get all covered in it. Now why aren't I doing all the ones at the same time? Well, I am in a minute, because I'm going to show you what we're going to do next. So now we're going to fit the oil seal. We're just going to give it a head start with some grease. And get the top off. There. A little bit on the outside as well. Now you can see down here I've got an old hub flange that we turned down. They're ideal to keep, these old things. So originally it should say on here, this way to surface, and it should say fit to depth of 4mm. Well, JP machined this flange face here to 4mm because that just goes really nice and snug. So how we did it, he first clinched this in this chuck of the lathe, turned this bit down so that it's parallel instead of being on taper, and then turned that down to 4mm. Easy peasy, no excuses. And then with a hammer, there is the seal installed to the correct depth. Excellent. Let's get all the greasy jobs done first, and then we can go back to the car. Well, before going back to the car, it would be a jolly good idea to put the discs on, the hubs. Now, I'm just going to put a little bit of copper grease on here. So the next chap, in another 20 years' time, will say, what a decent chap for putting some grease on there. Now, don't put it down the thread holes. And this is one of the things we've got to work out with these slotted rotors, or discs. So this is going to be on the front left, like that. We've got to establish which way this hub is going to go on. So let's put this onto here. So as that's going around, we want those little lines to splash water out this way. If it goes the other way, it's not really the same. We'll soon see when we get it on. I've probably made a mess of it. Where's the holes? Oh, there you go. And just give it a little wheel around like that. Now, we're going to just put a couple of quick bolts in just to make sure that that is the right way around, because it is a bit deceiving. Bloody grease everywhere. And then we'll see what that's like. So I had to stop a minute and think about this to see which way these discs go on, because logically speaking, if this was the car going this way, that would force any water out along that way, or water or gas as they say. But I just went to have a look at a couple of videos about these, just to sort of freshen me up, because it must have been 10-15 years since I've fitted some of these. But what it seems to be the most important thing is if it's got vented discs, the vents inside, the little walls inside that separate the two parts of the rotor or the disc, can be straight or they can be hooked. And that's the important thing, to get the air circulating. So if they're straight, it doesn't matter which way it goes on, and if it's hooked, it does matter which way it goes on, because it's going to, you want to push the air out from between the gap. Now this is particularly important on race cars. Now I don't know, but I came back down and I thought, I just realised these are solid discs. There's no vents in them, so it doesn't matter which way you round and put them. It's not going to make much of a difference. So I'm going to continue like this. So I've got this rotor on here, then I'm going to tighten it down to 73 Newton meters. Wait a minute, I'm going to check on that. Yes, indeed, 73 Newton meters is the one we're asking for. So we're going to put some Loctite on these bolts and diagonally tighten them down. We've got two in already. We've got the grease on the hub already, so they're going to come off next time, and then we'll tighten those down to 73. And they should be just nice. The disc in the soft jaws in the vise, and we're going to go diagonally opposite again and tighten them down to 73. Now you must make sure that there's no debris on these hubs, you know, no dirt, no rust or anything. Usually there isn't, but just make sure they're nice and flat. One. That's that one. That's that one. I always double check them. You don't want them coming off. Spoil your day, wouldn't it? Right. Let's do the next one. Now we can go and put them on the car or the vehicle. We'll do the far side ones first. We'll do the right hand side one first because I've got more room to put the camera up.